National University of Singapore. I'm glad to present to you the work I have done with Haifeng and Prateek, which is to tolerate malicious majority in blockchains. Tolerating malicious adversary is a key property of many distributed systems, such as blockchains. We often quantify fault tolerance by F, the fraction of adversarial power the system can tolerate. For example, in proof-of-work blockchains, such as Bitcoin, this F refers to the fraction of malicious computational power, and Bitcoin tolerates F up to 0.5. In proof-of-stake blockchains, such as Algorand, this F refers to the fraction of stakes held by the malicious nodes, and Algorand can tolerate up to 1/3. Despite blockchains are much faster today, they can only still tolerate F below 0.5, which is no better than Bitcoin more than 10 years ago. At the same time, there are growing needs for blockchains to tolerate F above 0.5. First, we have seen adversaries that actually manage to have F above 0.5. Secondly, in many proof-of-work and proof-of-stake blockchains, a few centralized miners control the majority of mining power or stake. Here are some relevant headlines. It is obviously always good to tolerate a larger F, but is it possible at all to tolerate F larger than 0.5? We quickly comment on this before proceeding. People think it's not possible because many existing blockchains build upon Byzantine agreement. It is true that Byzantine agreement cannot tolerate F above 0.5. So such blockchains can never deal with F above 0.5. However, this limitation does not carry over to blockchains. The reason is Byzantine agreement is a one-shot game. It takes in some input and then makes one decision. The protocol needs to ensure that this decision is always good. In contrast, a blockchain generates a sequence of blocks instead of a single block. It is okay for some of the blocks to be generated by the adversary. For example, in Bitcoin, it is perfectly okay if the adversary mines some blocks in the final blockchain. In this work, we propose a novel blockchain called B-Cube. B-Cube is the first blockchain system that can tolerate a malicious majority while providing practically usable performance. Instead of using Byzantine agreement, B-Cube uses Byzantine broadcast as its core. In the Byzantine broadcast problem, a publicly known broadcaster wants to broadcast a block to all nodes. This broadcaster may or may not be honest. This protocol guarantees two things. First, all honest nodes will agree on a block. Two, if the broadcaster is honest, all honest nodes should agree on the broadcaster's block. Different from Byzantine agreement, Byzantine broadcast is solvable even when F is above 0.5. One can easily build a blockchain with Byzantine broadcast. The system first chooses a random node as the block proposer to construct the block. Next, using Byzantine broadcast, the proposer disseminates the block. This will then be the next block in the blockchain. This repeats periodically to add new blocks into the chain. There is no fork. A block is confirmed as soon as the corresponding Byzantine broadcast protocol finishes. It seems that now we can easily build a blockchain using Byzantine broadcast, and the resulting blockchain will be able to tolerate F above 0.5. However, the key obstacle is that the resulting blockchain will have very low throughput. Let us clearly define throughput. The throughput of a blockchain is simply the number of transactions it can process every second. For example, if a blockchain outputs a 10 megabits block every 1 minute, then we say its throughput is 167 kbps. There are many existing Byzantine broadcast protocols. If we simply use those protocols to build blockchains, the resulting blockchain will have miserable throughput. For example, under our experiment setting, if we use the well-known dollar-strong Byzantine broadcast protocol, the resulting blockchain will only have 0.072 kbps throughput. More examples are available in our paper. Overcoming this challenge is our central technical contribution. Specifically, we propose a novel Byzantine broadcast protocol called Overlay BB that can achieve orders of magnitude better throughput than existing protocols. Using overlay BB as the core, our B-cube blockchain can tolerate a malicious majority while providing practically usable performance. Specifically, we have implemented a research prototype and have run experiments with 10,000 B-cube nodes. In our experiment with f equal to 0.7, B-cube achieves a throughput of 163 kbps. This is more than 2,000 times of what could be achieved using the Dollar-Strong protocol. This throughput is certainly not on par with blockchains such as Algorand that can only tolerate a malicious minority. However, this throughput is already practically usable. As a reference point, Bitcoin only have 14 kbps throughput. Our paper further explains that B-cube also offers practically usable confirmation latency. In the following, I will first give the system and attack model. Then I will talk about the design of B-cube and overlay BB. Finally, I will present the security analysis and experimental results. To prepare for more technical discussions, we clarify our settings. We consider a permissionless setting without PKI. Each node has a locally generated public-private key pair. An unlimited fraction of nodes may be malicious. The malicious nodes are fully Byzantine and may collude with each other. We use proof of stake to deal with Sybil attack in the permissionless setting. Specifically, we assume there are stakes or coins in the system. Such coins can be created or transferred from one node to another using blockchain transactions. We assume that at any point of time, at most a f fraction of the coins are held by malicious nodes. Nodes are connected via an overlay network. We assume that the honest nodes form a connected component on the overlay. Let's look at how B-cube is constructed. B-cube is a blockchain system running on many nodes. It starts with a genesis block. New blocks are added to B-cube like this. Periodically, B-cube uses a random beacon, and the beacon in turn chooses some stake. The owner of the stake then becomes the next block proposer, and it proposes the next block. That proposed block will then be disseminated to all the other nodes using overlay BB Byzantine broadcast protocol. Then, each node adds the received block to its local copy of blockchain. This process will repeat to add new blocks regularly. Recall that overlay BB ensures that all nodes receive the same block. Later, we'll prove the correctness of B-cube using these properties of overlay BB. As overlay BB is the key, we will be focusing on overlay BB going forward. Overlay BB is built upon some existing Byzantine broadcast protocols. So we review one such protocol, which is the Dollar-Strong protocol, in which we first show why the existing protocols can only give very low throughput. Then we will demonstrate how overlay BB achieves much higher throughput. Dollar-Strong protocol works in the following way. In round 0, broadcaster A sends the object to all the nodes with its signature attached. As A could be malicious and only send to a subset node, for each node B, it may receive the object in any of the round T. So if it receives the object is dropped if it has less than T signatures. Otherwise, B will accept the object, and B will add its own signature to the object and forward the object to everyone. By forwarding and attaching its own signature, B ensures that all other nodes will also accept the object. We know that the protocol needs to run for many rounds for correctness. This algorithm has very low throughput because each node only uses one round to transmit the object among all the rounds in the execution. And which round is being utilized is determined by the adversary. For example, if the algorithm runs for 500 rounds, all the bandwidth in the other 499 rounds are not utilized. So, how do we solve this? The immediate naive idea is that maybe running more broadcast instances just solve the problem. In this illustration, we run many instances instead of single instances. And we see because of this, more rounds become utilized now. So does this solve our problem? Actually, no. Recall that it's the adversary who decides which round is utilized in each instance. So if the adversary aligns all these rounds in every instance, we are back into square one. Most rounds are not utilized again. So naive parallelization does not solve our problem. To To have a good throughput, overlay BB still uses parallel instances. However, how does it deal with the problem we mentioned earlier? The idea is that when multiple instances utilize the same round on a single node, the nodes delay the send event in some instances. For example, we have two nodes A and B here. In round T, A received the object in 9 instances. By right, A will only utilize the round T plus 1 by forwarding all the objects at once. We want to make use of more rounds, so A will not send all objects together. Instead, A only send M1 in the round T plus 1 and delay other objects. A then send M2 in the round T plus 2 and so on. Now, the problem is that when A receives the object in round T, each of them has T signatures. When A forward the object and attach its own signature, M1 will have T plus 1 signature, and M2 will also have T plus 1 signature. Recall that in round T plus 1, B accepts an object if it has T plus 1 signatures. And hence, M1 will be accepted. However, B would require T plus 2 signatures in the round T plus 2. So B will refuse to accept M2. As the number of signatures is fundamental to agreement, B cannot just ignore the signature issue and accept M2. To still make B accept M2 in overlay BB, A will ask B to compensate for the delay so that M2 is seen as if it were received in the round T plus 1 with M1. The observation is that A does have the evidence to convince B because A were busy sending M1 in the round T plus 1. This simple compensation would work on a line topology. Unfortunately, things will get complicated in general topology. In the following example, we have 4 nodes A, B, C1, and C2. In round T, node C1 sends M1 to A. In the next round T plus 1, A forward M1 to B, and now C2 also send M1 to A. C1 has no further piece to send to A. Next, in the round T plus 2, C2 sends M2 to A and asks A to compensate as if M2 were received together with M1. In the last round T plus 3, A forward M2 to B. For correctness, A now needs to ask B to compensate, such that M2 is viewed as if it were received together with M1. However, B now sees a gap between M1 and M2, and B does not know whether A maliciously added the gap, and doesn't know whether it wants to compensate for M2. Our paper applies theoretical results from network propagation to build a mechanism for nodes to properly compensate for the message delay caused by propagating multiple pieces simultaneously. Please refer to our paper for the details. Delay compensation has some more challenges. Overlay BB further uses committee to run faster. The non-committee nodes need to compensate in different ways from the committee nodes. Beyond delay compensation, there are other obstacles we need to overcome. I will briefly highlight some. On the overlay network, adversary may run an injection attack on the relaying nodes. To avoid this attack, relaying nodes need to predict how likely the object will be accepted, and then filter objects based on the prediction. In an instance, the adversary may broadcast more than one object and reduces the throughput. To deal with that, we require the adversary or the broadcaster to commit to one object before the broadcast. The adversary can bias the beacon used in B-cube, but we have a novel mechanism to limit the bias and to avoid the bias being accumulated across time. We formally analyzed the protocols. First, we proved that overlay BB is indeed a correct Byzantine broadcast protocol. It gives the standard safety, validity, and termination property, as long as there is at least one honest node in the committee. Then B-cube is the blockchain built upon overlay BB. We proved the end-to-end guarantee of B-cube as a blockchain. Specifically, even under majority failure, B-cube satisfies safety and liveness. We implemented B-cube, and we run B-cube as a real blockchain system on a group of servers. In our experiments, we run 10,000 B-cube nodes, and we configure each node to use no more than 20 Mbps bandwidth. Recall that the nodes are connected by an overlay. The overlay is built by each node forming 20 outgoing edges to other random nodes. So this figure illustrates B-cube throughput with different tolerance level F. It shows that B-cube achieves higher throughput with lower tolerance, but even under F equal to 0.7, our protocol achieved a throughput of about 163 kbps. As as mentioned before, this throughput is not on par with blockchains that can only tolerate a malicious minority. However, this throughput is already practically usable. Still, as a reference point, Bitcoin only have 14 kbps throughput. We also compare with the baseline protocol, where we replace overlay BB with some best-known Byzantine broadcast protocol, and we did much better than the baseline. In conclusion, we have proposed the first blockchain system Bcube that can tolerate malicious Byzantine failure while achieving practically usable performance. In experiments, Bcube provides practically usable performance while staying robust against f equal to 0.7. We formally analyzed the security of the protocol, and as a central building block, we propose a novel Byzantine broadcast protocol called Overlay BB that provides orders of magnitude higher throughput than the state of the art.
Good work. Any question from the audience? We have, please go ahead. It should work. Just get closer.
Testing. Oh, yeah. This is Ling Ren from University of Illinois. A problem with the Byzantine broadcast is that while nodes can agree with each other, they have no way to convince external users that they agreed on the right thing. Right? So how does your system support external users or light clients?
Okay, thank you for your question. It is a good question. So first of all, for Bcube users, I mean it's the same in many blockchains. If you really want the security guarantee of the blockchain, you have to run the full node. Okay, and because let's say you mentioned light node, and in many blockchain systems, if you run a light node, then you need to contact some full node to retrieve the information, and then kind of your security is at the mercy of the full nodes. I know there are in many blockchain systems there are easier ways to run light nodes. Yeah, so I mean in Bcube it's the same. You can choose to run a light node, but kind of you need to choose the correct full node, so-called, and it really depends on how you which full node you contact. So yeah,
okay,
that's
thanks.
my answer to it. Yep.
Hi, Sam from ETH Zurich. I have a question about your baseline. You said that if you instantiate your Byzantine broadcast protocol with something state-of-the-art, you get very bad results in Bcube. I was wondering about the opposite direction. Could you use Overlay BB as a general Byzantine agreement protocol, or are there some technicalities which are specific to your blockchain?
Okay. So first, you of course you can use Overlay BB as a standalone Byzantine broadcast protocol. So it is not specific to blockchain. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the thing.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Saurav from UIUC. So in your experiments, you have used f equals to, I think, 0.7, and also the number of connections is about 20, right? So if I see it, the number of connections has to be at least larger than the fraction of malicious node. Otherwise, they can possibly all the connections from honest nodes are all bad, and then the honest node never receives any messages. How do you address those?
So thank you for your question. So yeah, so for first, it's not about 20, it's about 40, because each node will like 20 outgoing. So on average, you have like 40 if you count the incoming and outgoing. I understand to where you are coming from. You're saying you're assuming a certain way of constructing this overlay. For example, maybe you are thinking about just a randomly formed outgoing edges, and then a random, for example, 70% of the nodes being malicious. I mean, in practice, I mean, there are there are existing works talking about how to deal with this kind of partitioning attack where you want to ensure not all of your neighbors are bad people. And in fact, if you cannot assume that, I mean, even in minority failure case, many blockchains will also suffer from partitioning attack. So, to answer that question shortly, yes, you need to kind of ensure not all your neighbors are corrupted, and how to ensure that, I think you need to tap on some existing robust overlay construction works, and I feel it's a little bit orthogonal to the focus of this paper. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
This is the last question that we are going to ask.
Hi, this is Robert from UC Santa Barbara. I was wondering if you have some intuitions about how Throughput is resistant to malicious attacks that are intending to reduce the throughput. So it seems that although you might be able to reach an agreement, is it potential that it could come quite slowly?
Can you be more specific about when you say to reduce throughput? What do you mean? Is attack or?
So yes, yeah. So if a number of participants are malicious and say they introduce artificial delays in their responses or confusion into the broadcast protocol, do you have an intuition as to whether your throughput can remain quite high or whether it would degrade?
Okay. I think I get your question. So first, when we report the throughput, the throughput should hold under the worst kind of adversary. So we assume fully Byzantine adversary. So any attack the adversary may launch, that is the throughput guarantee we can get. So having malicious nodes will not reduce the throughput. That's our.
Thank you.
Okay, let's send speaker again.